Yeah, so what we have here, we call it as DTS. The model itself is guide. DTS stands for Digital Tipping System. So HYVA has been working on digital tipping system for quite some years. We wanted to develop digital tipping with the aim of safety for the drivers, because when we look at the applications where HYVA sells, it's mining, off-road, on-road as well, agriculture, all these segments. And there's a history of all these toppling events which happens especially at off-road because the road is not leveled. So that was the first goal that we had, that we make the tipping safer for the drivers, especially who are operating these trucks at harsh conditions. And that led to digital tipping. That was the first goal. Of course, we have come a long way. So I'll just explain what we have today. This is a digital solution for the drivers in the cabin, and that's what the driver gets. So it's a second pair of eyes in the cabin. So when you are doing a tipping, you can exactly see what's happening behind you at the back of the truck. And you are guided by that. When I say guided by that, I'll just perform a tipping, simulate it for you to show what does it have. So say you are doing a tipping, so I'll just simulate it. You can also have a side angle of the truck because the ground is not level, and that's what I'm simulating here, and that's the side angle you can see here. I also am overloading, so all the truck OEMs, they generally give you a threshold over which you should not operate the truck. So you can see that the tonnage is 53.6 tons, and that's what you see live. You can see the tipping or the payload in the body after you are at a certain angle, because using the pressure in the cylinder and the couple of sensors that we have, we detect what is the payload in the body with an accuracy of plus minus 3%. That's what we claim. Once you are at a certain angle, probably 35-40 degrees, and now the body probably dumps at this angle, so no further tipping possible. You have reached end of stroke, and by now, probably you already have an empty body. I'm just increasing the side angle. So this is the first warning that you get. You can also hear there is a small beep as a driver that this is dangerous at this angle, don't tip. And if I increase this, this is super dangerous. So we don't automatically lower it. We don't even stop it. Yes, there is a product that we have that we can stop the tipping by adding an accessory, but this is purely guide, that we are guiding you. Don't tip at this angle because there's a serious chance of toppling over. So I'll reduce the side angle first. So what we advise is, if there's a huge side angle, find a place which is more leveled. Of course, we don't have those sensors to scan, but drivers do understand what is a good angle, what is a bad angle. So I'm now lowering the body. So now one tipping is done, and once tipping is done, all these parameters are sent to the cloud. Of course, this is for the driver in the cabin as a second pair of eyes, only focused around safety, because that's the prime motive that we are trying to solve. That's the real problem we have. For the fleet manager who is sitting in the cabin monitoring, say, 50 assets at a site, at a mining or somewhere, he wants to look at all the data from all the 50 trucks, like the location, the safety warnings, and the payload. And that's what we have built for the fleet manager. So probably now I can show what we have for the fleet manager. So we are logged in. We have 2 assets connected, and there's third one which we connected yesterday. So that's what you see. I have 3 connected assets or 3 connected trucks in my fleet. 2 are active right now. These are the 2 trucks, and 1 is offline because that was connected yesterday. Powered off means these trucks have this ignition off. So you go to a parking and ignition off is powered off. So this is what we call as the home page, where you get a consolidated view of your entire fleet, how many connected assets, what operational state they are in, where they are located. So we're in Hanover. You can see these 2. One, that's our office in near Amsterdam, in Alphen, in Netherlands. That's where we connected it. So it's offline right now. So then if once I click on these two, you can see the exact location where they are, and the GPS quality is good, and the last data received from the gateway towards the cloud was few seconds ago. What we have on the right are all the safety events. So we have side angle, we have overload, we also have buckling. Buckling is when the cylinder experiences, our tipper experiences too much pressure. So that's a buckling. And we'll be adding more safety events. So all these safety events are sent to the cloud. Of course, once you expand, you can filter. Of course, we are not limited to just safety events. We have more categories. Geofence, safety events, and limit. Limit is you can personally configure as a fleet manager the thresholds. So we also give this liberty to our customers to configure these thresholds, not suggested by HYVA, but what you think is right. So that's limit. Based on those thresholds, it's emitted and sent here. If it is a dangerous event, you are also notified in the portal and in the email that a dangerous event happened, safety critical event, that you need to act. Of course, this is what we call as a fleet overview page. And when I say a fleet overview, it's the consolidated data of all your assets across a certain period. This is the fleet safety, and these are the different type of warnings. So you can see all the consolidated data for a particular event. So this is say overload, and what I see here is on a given day, out of total trips performed from all my assets, how many had that event? Of course, this is all simulated, and below is the summary of all of those. So total trips are total tippings done in the last 13 days by 3 assets, 20 were overloaded. So 44% of all tippings I'm doing in my fleet are overloaded. So that's something I need to work upon. This is showing during what time of the day I'm generating these warnings, because we got a feedback that generally during the night time, because of less supervision, we tend to see more overload. So that's to represent this. And of course, this is time series. If I want to just focus on one truck, then I switch over and see truck by truck, which truck is doing the maximum abuse, and basically train the driver better so that he can be more safe. This especially is very, very important because the revenue that you make in this segment is based on the total payload that you transfer from the mine or from a site to another site. So with whatever accuracy, plus minus 3%, it's good enough for the fleet managers to know how many trips I did and what is the total payload output from my entire site for these 50 trucks across a given period. Of course, payload per trip is also important because that's the average payload per trip you are doing. So if you look, say if you have 15 assets, maybe the number of trips that they do, there is a truck which is lesser, but the payload per trip is better. So it's all the KPIs that the fleet managers need. That's super important. That's what we give. It's a start that we have, and we have a lot of things coming up by talking to our customers, what exactly they're wanting to see, and we'll be bringing more and more. So a lot of development is happening behind the scene. One more thing which is super interesting, and a lot of customers say we like it. So what we did here was one tipping, and that's sent as an event towards the cloud, and that's what you see here. If I just expand this one trip, what you see is for one trip, exactly all the parameters. For example, the start time, the end time. So a trip starts at the loading point to unloading point and back to the same point. What was the duration? Shipping cycle time. This is the threshold suggested by the OEM. If you are overloaded, you get a true warning. What was the mass loaded and unloaded? Because of sticky load, there could be mass left over. Total distance traveled during that trip, your speed. Tipping angle is the latitude or longitude, and side angle is this angle. Both angles we show of the trucks. The pressure in the cylinder experience during that, and all the warnings during that trip. Everything is false. And basically that's what we have. And you can also download this data if you are interested in. And for example, for a given day, you can just perform a filter. I want to just download the data for particular day, for example, from 9th to 11th. And oh, there is no data. So let me just, because these are simulated assets, and I want to say only download the data for whatever assets. I can do that custom selection. So that's what we have. Few other things which we are working on the side is, of course, we know our customers like to create geofences, especially at the site. You want to geofence your parking, you want to geofence your site, you want to geofence your loading, unloading, and the workshop. Entry, exit timestamps you are interested in, and using that, we can eventually start working on asset utilization. How much of the total time out of 24 hours my asset is actually working, not idling, driving, and tipping. So we have all this data, and that's our next project, to give these efficiency parameters with the safety parameters. And that's what we are trying to solve. So this is what we have at this point of time. And of course, as I mentioned, a lot of things are happening behind the scene. We are working closely with our customers. This is for the customers, so we need to bring this value to them. Close engagement across the globe with all the customers is what we are doing right now. And hopefully, we make it a success.